You're listening to another episode of Mr. Allard's Neighborhood. This is the place where you're entitled to Brad's opinion. And now for your host, Brad Allard.
Well, it's still hot. How about you, Taylor? Is it hot over there?
It is very warm outside, but I
I'm
have my
sweating.
AC cranked down so low.
Well, I keep mine pretty high, which much to the complaint of Mrs. Allard. But so I had to
Those
turn it down.
electricity bills are no joke.
Yes, they are. I got lucky. I mean, I was talking to a couple friends, and they're like 3 times ours. I'm like, well, you must have it nice and cool in your house. 72, but no, I keep it pretty high, and so we walk around t-shirts and shorts, and drink a lot of water and that kind of stuff. But anyway, how you been? Doing all right?
I have been good, and yourself?
Yeah. Well, I know you've been busy with a lot of your studio and shooting work. So
yeah, it's been a very busy week.
Mm-hmm. Well, we got one next week too. So at the end of the show, I need to make sure we got the schedule down. I got some really good guests the next 4 or 5 shows, about next 10 days or so. So it's going to be lots of fun. Anyway, today we're going to talk mostly about the climate bill that is currently being debated about in Congress, and also the I'm going to have some thoughts on the local school race because I saw a lot of posting going on back and forth, and I think there's a lot of things on my mind. And like I said, you're entitled to my opinion. A lot of people they don't get the joke what I'm saying when I say you're entitled to my opinion. I'm making a joke about myself more than anything else. About my supposed self-importance. So that's the joke behind that. That some people go, wow, he really must think a lot of himself. I said, and actually, that's the joke is, it's just the opposite. I'm being ironic more than arrogant, but that's their problem. Anyway, I'm not seeing the Facebook thing yet. Is it coming?
It says we're live.
Okay. Well, it just hasn't been.
I can send you the link.
Okay. Because I need to share it with my vast listening audience. See, that's more irony right there. Anyway, what was I talking about? I didn't lose track. Today, I'm going to briefly, and I mean briefly, talk about that Kansas vote Tuesday about the abortion situation there, and it's because it was interesting. Was I happy with the outcome? No, but we're going to discuss it real briefly about why it really means and how both parties are misreading it, and how basically they are trying to make it into something that's not. There's this stuff. Okay, and I'm going to turn it down. Also, but I'm also going to talk about the Manchin-Schumer Inflation Reduction Act, and if you want to talk about irony, that's ridiculously ironic because it's not going to do what it's supposed to do in terms of reducing inflation. But I'll get to that part when I get to that part. The there's a lot of it. I'm going to briefly go through it, and then on the latter half of the show, I'm going to talk about my thoughts on the school board race because that's, as always, becoming this major contentious issue, and that's just part of the drill. So I'm going to make my comments about that. I may be talking more about that on Monday as well. I have an open date there, so there you go. But let's talk about the sponsors. Thank you, Daniel, at CrossFit Burleson. I appreciate your sponsorship. We had a nice conversation a little while back, about a week ago, and he's doing well. And I'm, I like to see him personally do well. He's a good man, and he's married to a good woman, and they do a lot for this community. And I appreciate all they do, not just for the jobs they provide, but also just the leadership they provide. So thank you. CrossFit Burleson's on 317 Southwest Wilshire. Check out CrossFitBurleson.com to check out the programs, the training regimens, the different types of athletic type of workouts they have. It is an athletic workout. It's not just to go in there and look at yourself in the mirror and pump iron. You're going to be pumping iron at CrossFit Burleson. Also, thank you to Shandy. She'll be back pretty soon from her trip to the UK. I'm jealous. She took the trip I wish I could, but there you go. Shandy Stogsdill, if you're going to be moving to this area, you really do need to be talking to her because she knows what the real estate is. She knows what the deals are. She knows what the market rates are doing. She's got it together. I really enjoy her appearances on this show because she has facts and data, and we have really good conversations that are factual, not just, well, I hear kind of stuff. Also, thank you to Rex, same kind of deal. He's pretty busy right now, but I'm going to have him on the show fairly soon. We're going to talk about maybe this very thing here I'll be talking about, plus some other economic-related issues. The Russell Wealth Group, hit myfinancialbox.com, hit the link, get to know him, see his video. He'll come and visit wherever you are, have a little coffee and a little powwow, and you'll get to know him, and you'll get to like him. He's a very personable gentleman. myfinancialbox.com. It'll take care of your financial investment needs. Also, speaking of financial investment needs, jewelry is an investment. Don't kid yourself. It very much is. Southern Gem, fine jewelry and gemstones on the top of the windmill building. Gayla is there right now with their staff, and they do all sorts of things. They do cleaning, they do appraisal, they do repairs. That's a big part of their business, and they have inventory. And they have a design. They could do the whole thing. Gayla is a licensed jeweler. She isn't just somebody who thought, well, this would be fun. I mean, she's been in it 23 years, and she has all the certifications. So go see Gayla, and she'll set you right up. Also, Michelle Humphrey, thank you very much for your help here. Hot Works on 731. And it's a great workout. I've talked to several people, and I've had several guests, like Victoria Johnson, for example, and she was on. She highly endorsed it, and others that have been in Hot Works. And they got 11 different formats that you can work out with infrared system, varying degrees of strenuousness. From lightly strenuous to fairly strenuous. But with the infrared, it makes the workout less physically taxing. So Hot Works, check it out. Also, Mandy Harden, Creative Concepts by Mandy, working out a deal now that we can get some more stuff because those cups are going fast. I got a handful left. So Creative Concepts by Mandy on 1187. She does good work, and she's really, really good person, and she has a really sweet looking boy, 2-year-old son. It's just beautiful. Anyway, briefly about the Kansas vote. I'm not going to spend much time on that. What had happened is that there's a constitutional amendment in the Kansas Constitution that basically declares that abortion is a right with certain parameters. Okay, let's not be clear what this amendment was. It wasn't anytime, any place, anywhere, but it did say that in many situations, abortion would be a right to Kansas citizens in the state of Kansas. And there was going to be a referendum to see if that would be repealed. And it failed. The repeal failed. And the Democrats are jubilant, the Republicans are upset, and on and on and on. A couple things I would say. I would have voted for the repeal, but there was some reservation when I read what they were actually voting on. I have made myself pretty clear I'm pro-life, and I support the Next Step Women's Center. But I do believe that there are those rare occasions where a woman's life is in danger, or a forced rape situation that those things have to be in consideration. And if you say, well, that's you're letting, well, you say you're not being 100% on this, I'll live with that criticism. No, there has to be certain parameters in which this tragic situation has to result in this. And the way that this bill was being presented was it could go to a no exceptions law, which Indiana Senate just passed. The Texas Senate and House, if it hasn't been passed yet, it's about to be. I think it has, and we have to have those exceptions. If we want to really, be pro-life, we have to be pro-life on the behalf of the mother as well. However, the Democrats are saying this is that people reject the Supreme Court ruling. They did not. They embraced the Supreme Court ruling by engaging in a public referendum. This is what the Supreme Court had in mind. The Supreme Court did not say in its ruling, the Dobbs case, that abortion is illegal. They weren't making any commentary about the quality of the law in terms of morality or anything like that. What they said was that it was not a court-given right. It was a right that could be extended by this individual states. This is exactly what the Dobbs situation was to create, was these kind of public responses to it, and rather than letting the courts do all the heavy lifting and all the fights being on that. That's one reason why I didn't have a problem at all with the Dobbs decision, because this is putting it in the hands of the people. The people of Kansas have had their election. The people of Kansas are responsible for the outcome of that election, and the pro-choice side won, and with a good margin. That's one of the first rules of democracy in the Democratic Republic is sometimes you don't win. Now, does that mean that the pro-life side in Kansas has no more options? No, they could bring it up again in a couple of years. All right. And they could try it again. But that's the democratic process. No defeat's ever permanent. No victory is ever permanent. So if the Kansas pro-life groups want to bring it up again in 2024, do it. That's what the Dobbs decision has said. And if it's defeated again, so be it. Now, the Democrats are saying this is, a rejection of Supreme Court ruling and blah, blah, blah. And it shows that this is going to be a great issue for them in November. And it's not. Why? Because what were they voting on? Yes, no. They weren't voting on a list of issues. They were voting on one issue, and that's it. So you're going to have a lot of people that are in this big, massive middle that are going to be incorporating a lot of different factors in their votes coming up in November. It isn't going to be strictly on abortion for most voters. It's going to be the economy. It's going to be climate. It's going to be schooling, crime, the whole thing. You're going to have a lot of people that are probably, if they were to classify themselves as pro-choice, they're still going to vote Republican. Why? Because they want a job. They don't want inflation. They think the economy's going bad. They think Joe Biden's handling the foreign policy situation badly. And so when you have a multi-issue choice to make, I just don't see abortion as jumping to the head of the line of those issues. And furthermore, when you have a single issue voter where abortion is the single issue, people assume that you're talking pro-choice. No, there's a lot of pro-life voters that are single issue. I know several. So that's why I think both sides are overblown. What the Republican lesson should be out of this is don't go to the extremes. Meet the voters where they are. A lot of people are uncomfortable with abortion, but if you're going to give them a choice of none, they're going to stick with their original choice. My advice, if they'd ever listen to me, and don't you think they should, Taylor? Don't they should listen? Yes, but anyway, he's nodding his head. Anyway, I would say that don't go to the extremes. Make these carve-outs for special exceptions. Present yourself as rational people. And also Republicans, don't be saying we're going to prevent abortions and then be cutting spending on social services for these children that arrive. If the Republican Party really is going to be pro-life, fine, take a stance against great, but also provide the funds these children are going to need: schools and education, medical care, assistance to the parents, whatever it takes. That's pro-life. That's why I'm so fond of Next Step, because they're not even really a political advocacy group at all. They provide those services. That's pro-life. What Next Step Women's Center is an example to it, what we should be endorsing, not just on a private sector, but in a public sector. So that's why I'm so fond of Next Step. And they'll be on the show in about a month. I believe it's the 12th or the week of the 12th or something like that. But I'm that far ahead. Also, let's talk about the Manchin-Schumer Inflation Reduction Act, which is one of the things I can't stand about legislation is they always make these laws with these kind of funky names about, Inflation Reduction Act or whatever else. Like it's really going to reduce inflation and all this other rot. And on that score, it's been scored by public and private analysis groups, and basically said if there is any inflation reduction, it's going to be so marginal that we wouldn't even notice it. It's not going to be a massive reduction in inflation if it does it at all. At best, this bill, if it's passed the way it's been written, is going to be what they say revenue neutral, which is hardly ever the case. However, they put numbers down and they equal up and they say, hey, it's revenue neutral. This is something that Manchin had turned down about 2 weeks ago. And then a week later, last week, he kind of surprised everybody saying, I've changed my mind. I've agreed to a deal. And there's all sorts of politics about that too, because a lot of Republicans felt snookered by Mr. Manchin. But it hasn't passed that Senate yet, and still has to pass the House. Supposedly, the House is going to adjourn for their August vacation Friday afternoon. And so there's all sorts of talk that if they don't get it done, they're going to have to do it after Labor Day, and it's going to be very difficult because people are going to be gone campaigning or whatever else. Also, Ms. Sinema of Arizona has not signed off, and she's going to be the 50th vote. And there are things in it that she has been opposing all along during the Build Back Better bill, which is what this is, just a much much smaller form. This is a miniature version of the Build Back Better bill, and it still has some of the aspects of that bill that she would oppose in this one. So let's see if she stands her ground, and which is very possible, and she's very stubborn about that. And also, one of the problems that the House members are going to have with this bill is that something to do with the SALT taxes, state and local taxes that are deducted off our income tax. Well, the Trump administration cut it at $10,000 max, which is just hammering California, New Jersey, and Illinois, and all these others. So a lot of these blue state House members said they're not going to vote for anything that still leaves that intact. Well, this bill still leaves that intact. And there's several House members, not for this particular bill, but they've said all along that if it doesn't address this, then we're not voting for it. Even the Senator Menendez of New Jersey said he may not vote for it as it currently stands. So there's still a long way to go. But what does this bill say? What does this bill say? First of all, it's $260 billion in clean energy tax credits, primarily meant for industries and utilities that embrace green energy production as opposed to fossil fuels. The goal, and I'm reading this from the New York Times, but I also got all my articles from the Journal, National Review, Washington Post, New York Times. Those are my basic standbys because I think it covers the spectrum. Back to this, the goal to make new green energy production cheaper for utilities to build in fossil fuel plants are. So they're going to put nearly a little over $250 billion in building clean energy tax credits. By the way, this is a 10-year bill. So we're not talking about in 1 year because the tax revenue would never match it. Basically, private firms and publicly owned utilities could get tax subsidies both for the production of renewable energy and for manufacturing a specific part essential to a renewable project, such as wind turbines or solar panels. So this is what a lot of people are concerned about. This part is that when the Obama administration was doing this, there's a company called Solyndra that basically blew through $500 million and with nothing to show for it. And so, and the reason why Solyndra got it is because they were donors to the Obama campaign. And so this, for a lot of the critics of this bill, they see $260 billion, whatever it is, at $260 billion being thrown out there in tax credits, and companies going to be trying to access that. A lot of the times it's not going to be the market that's going to decide who gets the tax credits. It's going to be the government, and there's going to be a political component involved. Did you campaign for me on my behalf? Did you give to my campaign or not? This is exactly what Obama was criticized, and his Department of Commerce was criticized for doing during his tenure. And so basically we got $260 billion out there that is not going to be distributed based on, any economic thing, but who's got the connections, whose congressman, whose senator was able to be on the right committee at the right place at the right time, who's the chair of this committee, which senator was able to get something, an amendment passed in some unrelated bill. So that's why a lot of people have problems with this. The goal, what we're looking at, renewable energy and whatever else, that's a whole nother topic, and we can have a debate on that. But the point is that renewable energy that is going to be driven not by technological advances in the market and whatnot, but driven by government flooding these companies with money, isn't going to necessarily produce what we want. However, there's other parts. This one, Taylor, you'll like. $80 billion and new rebates for electric vehicles, green energy at home, and more. $7,500.
How exciting!
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that means I need to buy another Tesla then, right?
It could,
just so I can get the money.
Well, you could sell yours to somebody, and that person you sold to will get $4,000 tax credit.
No way.
Yeah, it's used Teslas. I don't know how big a market of used electric vehicles are.
It's insane. I could probably get as much as I paid for it right now.
Yeah, well, whoever paid for it will get from the government $4,000, and then you have 7,500 one. I was checking the prices of these Teslas, and I was a little surprised how expensive they are. Now, don't be offended, Taylor, but the reason why I don't like this one is because why should the working class pay for somebody else's car? It's like to me, it's very, very similar to loan forgiveness.
It is capped on household income, though.
It is 300,000. All right.
Well, for a combined.
Or 150 for by yourself. Well, I don't make $150,000, and so, but the people paying for it surely don't either. And this is what happens: is people don't understand that the money's coming from us, either in the form of taxes or debt. And so, the reason I'm so adamantly opposed to the school loan forgiveness, even though I have 2 children that have school loans and benefit from it personally. I just don't think that other people should be paying for the lifestyles that they themselves can't afford. And that, that's just the whole point of it. Now, I've learned a lot about electric cars by being around you. My brother-in-law has a hybrid and he really likes it. And so my opinion about the cars has modified quite a bit, the cars themselves, but I just don't like this program. Second of all, the infrastructure yet to support this. Now, supposedly that infrastructure bill they passed about a decade or a year ago will have them, but that's going to take a decade long to get that together. But anyway, I'm off the track a bit. But the thing about it is, if you took advantage of all these credits, you could save some money. Also, if you put solar panels on your roof, you get a tax credit. If you have some sort of renewable energy source for your home or business, you get a tax credit. I have less problem with that than I do the electric vehicle tax credits, because most people right now can't afford. What is the opening price of a bare bones Tesla, Taylor? What would it cost? About 46?
It's gone up actually, just with the increase on prices. But give me 2 seconds, I'll tell you.
Okay, well, as he looks that up, I saw one for like
Yeah.
102, but I thought, man, that thing better
Oh
run
yeah, I
all day.
wish.
Yeah, but it's your basic model, and they're fairly standard, aren't they? I mean, there's not like a lot of different models. I know they want to have an SUV and all this other stuff, but there you are.
59 is the starting price. 59,490 for a Model 3. Oh, I lied. Hold on, that was
Yeah, I thought
upgraded.
yeah.
I lied.
No, no, sorry.
46,990.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I thought was around 46. All right, now, so having to say 500, get down a little under 39. It's and also here's the issue about having electric vehicles as it stands right now. We don't know the true environmental impact yet. We don't know what it's doing to the environment in terms of battery production. It's like solar panel production. It takes a lot of energy and a lot of mining to make both these things, a lot of lithium to make the battery. And a lot of these materials not located here in the United States, but in China. And that's another issue. That if we ever get further crossways with China, they could cut off our supply of that kind of stuff and we'd be in a real problem. So anyway, but they are also, this will make people happy. 124 billion for major enforcement increases at the IRS. Yeah, that's what we want. A lot more audits. The fallacy, not the fallacy, what's a good way of putting it? The misleading statements on this, I'll try that, is that by doing this, we're going to increase up to, they said, $1.4 trillion over the next decade, which is horse hockey. But they'll increase the revenue to the government by increasing the enforcement of tax cheats. It's most people that don't pay income taxes do so legally. Okay. When Mitt Romney said 47% aren't interested in income tax cuts because they're not paying income taxes, of course, they try to turn that into some sort of snob remark. But the truth is, a lot of people don't pay income taxes because they don't make enough money, or they have enough deductions with children and other credits that they don't have to, they go below the level. So the point is that who are they going to come after? Mostly the middle class, because the upper class can afford attorneys to stretch this thing out. When I'm riding around listening to the radio and listening to sports radio, and they got these tax attorneys that are advertising on the Fan and other sports talk, they said, and have some testimony of a guy who owed 120,000, and they said, "Well, I ended up only paying 20,000." Like, well, dude, you just cheated me out of $100,000. So but I digress. And also, there's some of these other things that are really in the weeds for us. Also, they're going to allow Medicare to lower prescription drug prices. In other words, they can negotiate and bring prescription drug prices for Medicare down to a certain level, which they've been trying to do for years. The pharmaceutical companies are very much opposed to it because they're going to cut into the revenue. And they say we're going to have to make up that revenue somewhere else. And so what it could happen is like squeezing the air in the balloon routine, where they're getting squeezed by Medicare. They could inflate it down to the younger payers, the younger insurance payers. Now, I found out recently the state of Texas said if you're on the TRS system, they can cap how much is paying for insulin, which is the most commonly used drug, apparently. And now Medicare is going to do the same nationwide if this bill passes. Sounds good. But again, for those who are not in Medicare or some sort of retirement plan like I am, they may end up paying more for their their pharmaceuticals, their medicines, because those pharmaceutical companies are going to get theirs. They're going to get it, and the insurance companies are going to make sure they get theirs too. So that's why, am I opposed to it? Well, I'll be on Medicare in 5 years. Maybe I won't then, but that has to be addressed. All right. And also extending the Obamacare subsidies, which were set to expire in October. Now, here's the thing about the taxes that are supposed to be imposed. The two things: they're going to raise the taxes on the wealthy, which they describe over $400,000, but they also are going to propose a lot of taxes on corporations. And I've already made my point clear about corporate taxes, because they're going to pass those costs along. What this would do would eliminate a lot of the possibilities of corporations from taking deductions and write-offs and things of that nature to get their income to zero. A lot of people make a lot of noise about Amazon doesn't pay federal income tax. Well, their employees do, and Amazon pays billions of dollars in local and state taxes. The federal tax, what they're talking about here, is a minimum 15% for companies over $1 billion. And it would apply even if you move your headquarters to, say, Canada, like Burger King did about 10 years ago to avoid this. So it'd be 15% regardless. That's going to be the check you cut. The reason I have a problem with that is because, again, these corporations are going to make their money, and they'll either do it by cutting my dividends in my wife's 401k or my TRS fund, or they're going to raise the prices of their products, or they're going to be less willing to give workers raises. They're going to keep the wages static because they don't have the money. Now, you say they haven't been doing that. Well, that's another problem. And there is a moral component of capitalism I think some businesses neglect. But I'm saying, if you have a situation where Walmart can say, well, we can't raise the money to our employees because we're making less profit. So there's a problem. And they also are redefining certain income things that the hedge fund managers and the wealthy have been using to scam out of taxes. I have no problem with that one, certainly. But the taxes, a lot of the Democrats are not happy. I mentioned about the lack of the SALT tax at state and local. Also, there's several that wanted a wealth tax. Well, that's not included here. There's a couple other stuff that they wanted. They wanted to expand health care and Medicaid and to encompass more people, and that's not going to be included in this bill. There's also a couple other kickers that may drop this in its tracks. One is, here's a little bit of Senate parliamentary arcania, but this is going to be passed on a majority vote solely. It's not allowed to be filibustered because it's under a, quote, reconciliation bill, which the parliamentarian of the Senate hasn't ruled yet, but it's assumed she will. But in a reconciliation bill, it's meant to coordinate all the spending bills into one bill. And according to the rules, a reconciliation bill cannot be filibustered. The other bills that made up the components of that, when they were going through the Congress earlier this summer and spring and winter, there was those kind of discussions. But when you put them all together in one lump sum package, a filibuster is not allowed. Now, you do have to vote on individual pieces of that reconciliation bill one at a time. So you have this marathon voting session. And so it may be an all-night thing, and there'll be amendments, and there'll be speeches, and there'll be hair pulling, and wailing and weeping and gnashing of teeth, but whatever. And this is not something just the Democrats have done. That's how they passed the 2017 Trump spending tax bill. That's the way they passed Obamacare in 2010. And supposedly you can't have, in a reconciliation bill, policy. In other words, if it's just policy changes, that is not eligible for reconciliation. We're only talking money. And because of that, Manchin insisted that for every square foot of land taken up for windmills or solar farms, that a corresponding square acre. Did I say square foot? I don't know. Square acre is what I meant. For every square acre of land given over to windmills or to solar farms, and a corresponding square acre would be given for Gulf drilling and Alaska drilling. In other words, they're going to expand the ability to drill in Alaska and the Gulf Coast. So, for example, if this bill puts 100,000 square acres for windmills in Nebraska, then there's going to be 100,000 square acres of potential drilling in Alaska or the Gulf Coast. But that has to be passed separately. It's not part of this bill. It has to be passed separately. So Manchin is counting on Schumer, Pelosi, and Biden to keep the promise, which they've all made, that they would bring it up for a vote. And so if it doesn't happen, then Manchin basically sold his soul for nothing. Now, West Virginia is doing very well by this bill. They're going to have solar farms all over West Virginia, and there's going to be a lot of money going to West Virginia. West Virginia is the number one state in the union in terms of intake from federal revenue sources. Number one. And Manchin just kept that tradition going. But the point is that if this separate bill about drilling and corresponding, you'd still have 100,000 acres maybe in Nebraska for windmill farms, but there won't be any drilling on the side to counterbalance it, for fossil fuels. So that's one reason I think that Joe Manchin's going to look back and realize he's been played like a Stradivarius violin on this bill. Anyway, I hope that was clear as mud. A lot of people haven't been paying a lot of attention because they're trying to just survive the heat. But anyway, let's talk about the rest of the sponsors and also a couple of nonprofit announcements. Our place, I was there today with my men from the Sunday school class. Great service, great food as always. I've never been disappointed there. I probably go there, I would imagine, between, about 5 to 6 times a month. And I've never had a bad experience there. Always great service, always great food. And I'd always get a kick out of Otto working the tables as the big celebrity that he is. And thank you, Otto, for all you do for the community. You're a genuine asset to this community, and we appreciate what you do for us. Also, thank you to Chris. Same thing. You're also an asset to this community. I know you do some things, and maybe don't get the publicity or such, but he does a lot of things. He's made his place available for things, and he's a very knowledgeable young man. Wild Cigar, if you're not a big cigar smoker, this is the place to go, actually, because it could help you with your preferences. You may not be able to articulate exactly what you want, but these tobacconists could tell you this is the cigar you're looking for. And they have nice drinks. It's a nice atmosphere. It's quiet. It's well ventilated, well lit. And so it's a good place to do a little happy hour business. And they have happy hours going all the time. So check out their web pages. So $2 off some days on Texas-related liquors or Texas-related wines, things of that nature. Check out their Facebook page and their webpage and tell you all about it. And also, Local Life. I'd like to have Tiffany on, but by gosh, she's so busy. She's getting married, and so we'll probably have her on in September. The young lady's got lots going on, and she does a really great job. I highly endorse anybody looking to market in this area to give her every look, because she goes to 30,000 homes and to 110,000 people, and goes to a lot of businesses where they get multiple copies. I've seen them on store counters many times. Our place, one of them. Also, she puts on great events. She's very organized. She put on a great 4th of July party about a month ago, I guess. Yeah, it'd be exactly a month ago. So I look forward to being at your wedding, Tiffany. You're going to do great, and you got a good man to marry. Also, a couple of nonprofits going on. Harvest House, the summer food program, is going on until the 19th of August. So if you want to help or want to donate food, money, etc., if you want to participate as a recipient of this program, you need to register. Now, there's a lot of need for this program. They and Promises have been feeding a lot of children this summer. I was talking to one of our Promises workers on Sunday, and she was telling me about all what they do. And they both, between these two, a lot of kids are being fed lunches that they don't get when school's not in. And also, the Little Red Schoolhouse is up and running. And so, even if the supply drive itself is not still going on, you take supplies to them or that resale center, or to Promises. But you take it to Harvest House. They just opened the resale center. They'll take those supplies. My son-in-law and I took some furniture over there. What day was it? Tuesday? I think that was right. No, it was a Monday. We took some stuff over Monday, and it's looking great. So they got, and I saw some of the stuff, and it's good stuff. It's not junk. So check it out. Jennifer Woods could tell you all about it. And she'll be on the show on the 29th of this month, and by that time, we'll have a pretty good idea. But anytime you want to give school supplies is a good time. Also, what's the next one? Rise. Oh, yeah. Rise is coming up, this mental health conference. It's going to be in October 8th at Pathways. It's brought to you by Sarah Nicole Yoga and Reach Across Johnson County. Say it right. Sarah and Alexis, the two young ladies that are running this, are going to be on the show in about a week or so, roughly. So Aaron can tell us all about it. But what it's designed to do is designed to basically provide an opportunity, not only just to, no, it was not Alexa. I'm sorry. It's Ashley. I'm sorry. I misspoke. I don't know why I thought Alexa. But anyway, it's Sarah and Ashley Vasquez. They are trying to put together a place for people that can hear about mental health issues, also access mental health help centers and treatment centers and things like that. So check out the webpage. Sarah Nicole Tynan, Ashley Vasquez, Sarah Nicole Yoga is got it on her page. So there you go. Lots going on, including a school board race. This ought to be fun. Got to get some reaction, but I don't care. There's been a lot of stuff on the Facebook the last couple of days about the school board race. And I have very strong opinions about it, of course, as a former educator. I have very strong opinions about who's running in this race. This show is 100% behind Sean Miner, without question. I'm going to have Sean on the show a week from today on the 11th. And if you want to hear his original comments, the July 18th YouTube has been shared on Facebook many times, but it's on my page, Allard's, just Allard's with an apostrophe S. And you could look up and you could subscribe to the YouTube channel, which I would appreciate certainly, but it's on there. Also, if you just look it up on YouTube, Allard and Sean Miner, I bet it pops up. But it's been my most watched YouTube yet. And I had this year was the highest Facebook views yet, because people are accessing this because they want to know what's going on. So next Thursday, if you have questions, bring them on. Now, I have very strong opinions about his opponent as well. She puts on the Facebook a defense of her tenure at BISD, and I'll let you read her defense, and I'll let you read the rebuttals, and I'll let you read the documentation that's online. That's all up to you to check it out. She defends herself and whatnot, and a lot of people are asking questions that they're not getting answers to, and they are also they're putting on their documentation that I think shows what really happened. But the bigger picture why I oppose Ms. Reed's candidacy is this is not an election that involves you or me or our children. It involves her and her sense of grievance and victimization. She's running a campaign on victimization, that she was done wrong by the administration of BISD and by the parents and by her fellow colleagues. The letters are right there to be read. She blames politics of the BISD and an antagonistic personal relationship with the people that oversaw her department and oversaw her school. Read it for yourself to see what other people said on an official capacity. But the idea that she's running on behalf of her children is ludicrous when all we hear from her is, I'm the victim, I'm the victim, I'm the victim. This victimization is a tactic that is used to distract from the real issues of this election or any other election. I put on one of these posts, if you're explaining, you're losing. That's an old expression in politics. If you're having to explain your actions, you don't have anything else to talk about. But why you're not talking about why you're running. You're talking about all these discrepancies in the story. If you're explaining, you're losing. Sean Miner doesn't have to explain. He's been in there 12 years. He's been in the room when these things have been discussed. And when these allegations are thrown about loosely on other platforms or on Facebook, they don't have anything to back that up with other than insinuation. And I heard Sean Miner was there. For example, they're making a deal about security at schools, and they want to take credit for that. They've been working on this since May. Sean Miner's been there in the room. He helped hire Scott Shahay, the gentleman that's going to help Steve Logan run the security. They hired Scott in May. Now they're talking about bringing in the Marshall program for the elementary schools to make a more permanent or more, at least a quicker security situation, and keep the SROs at the secondary campuses. Okay, I'm in favor of that. I got no problem with that. The kids are safe. The Marshall program will be used in probably retired or maybe not, or maybe people want a different job, but to be licensed police officers, peace officers. I got no problem with that. Was that the original thing that I thought of? No. Do I care? No. Because if the job is getting done and getting done appropriately, I'm good. But they're trying to make it sound like if they hadn't put the spurs to them, none of this would be happening. That's just complete rubbish. Second of all, as far as her ending of her employment with BISD, I really don't even touch that. I'll let the talking do it themselves and documentation do it themselves. I'm not going to make any insinuations. It's not pertinent to me. It's not pertinent to me. But I would ask, would it be possible for ever to teach in this district again? One way or the other. That's a question I would ask. Could you ever do that if the ever mood struck you to go back? Now, I'm not. Like I said, I don't know the details of the situation why she left. I mean, she says this, they say that. I don't care, and you can, so I don't care. Even without that, I've already got enough not to want her on the school board. Even if that never happened, even if they gave her a going away party when she left, I still wouldn't want her on the school board. And so when you're talking about, so again, I want to reiterate this in case, somebody's listening with the lawyers on speed dial. I have nothing to say about the termination of her employment with BISD. You could find out for yourself through all the various means what the story is. But the whole bottom line, there's somebody, yeah. Sarah is mentioning here, I think even if they do the Marshall program, there'll still be visits from SROs to the elementary schools as well. Well, I'm glad to hear that. That's a good thing. Here's a lot of reason why I don't want Nona on the board. She's not there for us. She's not there for your kids. She may say that, but she's there because she's an axe to grind. She has grievances against the school and how things happened and how she felt like she was treated while she was an employee at BISD, even previous to this incident or this separation between the two of them. She doesn't have anything positive to say about BISD on JOCO or any other platform that she uses. They're always trashing the school board members. They make accusations about them not being truthful or transparent. They make all these statements about how they are putting their own interests ahead of the kids. Their idea is to so dirty the reputation of the board and BISD and Dr. Jimerson and anybody else associated with it that only Nona Reed could save them, or people like her. That's the tactic. The tactic is an old one. It's like if you have the facts, you argue the facts. If you don't have the facts, you slam the table. That's the old joke there too. You pound the table if you don't have the facts. So they think about volume and indignation. That's going to be a presentable face to have on the school board as a candidate. They make accusations about critical race theory being taught in the schools. First of all, I'd like to know what they think of critical race theory, what it really means. People on the far left and the far right have thrown this critical race theory to their own advantage. What critical race theory is nothing like what's being taught in BISD. What critical race theory is that this country has been founded and continues to exist in a whole system of racism, and regardless of what the civil rights bills and whatever, we're still a racist society, and everything should be viewed from a racial prism. That is not what's being taught in BISD schools. It's not critical race theory to understand in your studies of history or literature that not every American has had the same experience, that the Black American, the Hispanic American, the Asian American, the woman have different stories that need to be included in the overall narrative of this country and in literature and in current events and in economics. This attitude that we're teaching kids about racism in schools and trying to make, inflict upon these kids that white kids are trash and they're mean, and all that's not what's being taught. And it's a lie to say we're teaching critical race theory in the schools. They're getting a overall and appropriate education on the idea that not every story is the same, but every story needs to be incorporated into the overall narrative of this country. Also, they talk about they want God in schools. I don't know what that means. What does that mean? They never explain that. What does God in schools mean? I know what I don't want it to mean. I don't want the schools to be issuing public recognition of religious, uh, uh, well, activities. That's the best word I could think of, like prayer over the intercom during the school day. That's been shot down by the Supreme Court 60 years ago. The reason why is not because I'm some sort of agnostic. Far from it. I'm a believer that was saved by grace, flaws and all. That's why what I would teach in my home, and I did teach in my home. We don't need God in the schools nearly as badly as we need God in the homes. We need God in the homes, and the God in the schools will take care of themselves. God is in the schools every time a person, a believer, walks in that building and conducts him or herself as God would have them to. That's God in the schools, not some program or curriculum that's going to be manipulated and designed by somebody else. And I'm really indignant about this because they're using God as an election tactic. I'm not going to comment on their personal relationship with the Lord. That's not appropriate. But when they start talking about God in schools, that's a totally different deal. Their relationship with the Lord is their business, and I have nothing to say about it. I'm not going to comment on it. But I will say I don't want an organized curriculum. Now, as far as other Christian activities or other religious activities, the kids can be involved in all they want. Now, here's the thing: since we don't have a high level of religious minorities, I could focus really just on the Christian activities. But if we lived in Irving or Arlington or Dallas, then we'd have to also allow for non-Christian activities, Jewish and Muslim, etc. But since that's irrelevant to us right now, the kids can conduct themselves and have Bible studies before school or after school. And I know this because I sponsored some of those groups. If you want a Bible study group on the BISD or any BISD campus, but BHS is what I'm referring to, you had to get a sponsor and a room. And they'd come to me and say, Mr. Allard, will you be our sponsor? I say, sure, no big deal. And while they're doing their Bible studies after school, I'm grading papers or whatever. And they give it to the principal, he signs it, and off we go. So they could do it before school, they could do it after school. When the few times when I was brave enough to go through the lunchroom, because it's a zoo in there, I'd see small groups of kids with their Bibles open and talking and maybe reading to each other. Perfectly constitutionally legal. God is in the schools because the kids brought them there. They don't need the adults bringing them in there and tell them, here's the deal. And just wait till we get some sort of doctrinal issue. Not all Christians think alike. I just think this is, again, a wedge issue. They're trying to say we're in favor of God in the schools, and if you're not, you must be a godless atheist. That's the tactic they're using. Same thing with the security thing. You don't think like we do, you must not care about the security of the kids. That's another reason I'm 100% opposed to arming the teachers, and so is the vast majority of BSD teachers. They may drag up one or two that says, yeah, I'll tote weapons. But if we have a martial program and we have an SRO program in schools, we don't need teachers toting weapons. And I never have understood this. I've never understood this, that you're going to get some 60-year-old English teacher who sees some threat going on. She's going to whip out her 38 and plug the guy just like, some sort of Sylvester Stallone movie. We're not trained for that. And giving us a gun and giving us a few lessons or whatever else, we're not trained for that. Billy Cordell trains his professional police officers. I believe they're doing that, if not this week, next week. They have extensive training annually over this very thing. And to think that, okay, we're going to give Mr. So-and-so a gun, the math teacher, he may have a concealed carry license, but he doesn't have any lessons in it. It's craziness. And I know there's a group here in town, and they've been on JOCO about we want guns in the classroom, and they went to the school board and raised hell about that too. It's craziness. We're going to have probably one of the best security systems we got going in this whole region, better than our neighboring districts. And to say that we need further guns in the school is craziness. Again, you're opposed to guns. You just don't love the children. That's the tactic. Okay. They complain about the lack of discipline in schools. I could complain about, as a teacher, the lack of discipline at homes. It didn't happen all the time. It didn't happen even that often. But sometimes I talked to parents and I said, "Your kid's being a total ass in my class." Yeah, he's that way at home too. Well, I can't do much about that at what's going on at home, but it's sure showing up in school. The discipline issues it's a more complex, and we just don't bring the paddle in. First of all, you have to think of state and federal laws, and this is kind of going into the weeds a little bit. But if you have a discipline program, even if it's perfectly race neutral, if it's seen as impacting a certain racial group, you fill in the blank, whatever racial group or economic group or subgroup you want to put in there, you could be in violation of civil rights acts and therefore be sued by the Civil Rights Department, the Justice Department. So if we had a situation that we had a subcategory, and it didn't have to be racial. Okay, let's understand that we're not just talking about racial subgroups. We're talking about any subgroup you care to talk about. Kids at lower economic status, special ed kids, females, whatever else. On and on and on. That's one reason why the school's hands are tied. Obama put this in place in 2013. Trump dropped it in 17. Biden put it back the first week or initiated it go back the first week of his administration, and it's enforced for this school year. But the point I'm making is it's impossible. It's like the God issue. You can't have discipline in schools if you don't have discipline at home. The elephant in the room about public education is what is the parent's responsibility? And a lot of people tippy-toe around that in public talk because they don't want to offend the parents. But the truth of the matter is that the kids are growing up and without godly values and without discipline. They're going to bring that to school. And the teachers and everybody else are going to have to deal with it. If they're brought up in homes where even if they're not, in church every time the doors are opening, but there is that aspect of their lives to some degree, and they're brought up with godly principles and virtues, and they have discipline at home, and there's expectations of them, both how they behave and how they achieve their academics, then they'll bring that to school. So to drop all this in the lap of the schools and say only Nona Reed could fix this is not going to happen. I haven't seen nothing in here in her campaign, one iota of positivity about the schools that we have, the programs we have. Kids can come out of our schools, our high schools, in many cases with college hours under their belt, in some cases an associate's degree. They come out with specialized skills that maybe that they don't want to college. They're going to head start on other types of manual skills and industrial skills. We have a school system that sends kids to the best schools in the country, and I've seen it because I was there. We have schools that people move to because of our special ed program and our 504 program. We have schools that appropriately support the athletics. Yet, you listen to Miss Reed and her cohorts, nothing but trash is going on in BISD. And that's why I'm so indignant. She's not bringing anything to this election other than criticism and grievance. She's not bringing positive affirmation. She's not looking to be joining a winning team. She wants to run the team. She and her handlers. So, elections are going on right now, guys. Early election today, tomorrow, next week, all week, 5 to 5, on the 13th, 7 to 7, all at the administration building. And that also the day itself, August 20th. Also the week, I was reading something here. Also the week of 2 weeks from Monday. What is the week of the 22nd? Not 22nd. Doggone it. The 14th. Get it right, dummy. The 14th. That whole week, early election. We have multiple opportunities. It's very conveniently done. It's down at the administration building where the school board meets. They're waiting right now to take your vote. And this is an important vote, not just because of our children, but also the value of our property and homes. Shandy will tell you the number one thing people look at when they're moving here is they have a family at the schools. And then right after that, the crime rates. And we're very, very fortunate to have Billy Cordell and his crew protecting us and guarding the streets. Well, I got a little bit worked up, but I'm fine because I'm very upset by this. All I see is I was robbed. I victimized. Everybody that says these things about me are liars or spin doctors, is what I've read. That these parents that wrote these letters and the administration that I didn't get along with, etc., were erroneous in their judgment. So this is a very important election. That's why we need to make sure that element doesn't get on our school board. We already deal with it enough with the city council. We don't want it on the school board too. I hope you share this with your friends. If they don't want to hear all this stuff about Joe Manchin, fine. Just tell them, pick it up about the 30-minute mark and then move on. But I think it's important. We really do need to get this stuff out there. The other side has a bullhorn rather, and they blow it all the day long. So we need to be there for this election. And I hope I made myself pretty clear. Please share this. Again, if they don't want to talk about the other stuff, just say skip to the 30-minute part, and there you go. This will be on YouTube very, very quickly. Share that. On and on. All right, let's run through the sponsors real quick. Thank you, Daniel CrossFit Burleson, for letting me put this message out there. I appreciate the opportunities to have my voice out there, and you make it possible and have made it possible. You and Shandy are original sponsors for 3 years. We're coming up on our 3-year anniversary. The Tuesday after Labor Day we'll go into our 4th year, and y'all make it possible. CrossFit Burleson, 17 Southwest Wilshire, for the workout you need. Also, thank you to Shandy. I hope you have a safe trip back. I'm sure you will. And we're going to have you come talk about that. And you also talk about these things. How important are schools to real estate values and what we want to do as a community? And so we'll be looking forward to that when you have an opportunity for that. Thank you, Shandy. Thank you also to Rex. Same thing. Make it possible. Hit myfinancialbox.com and they'll make your financial goals possible. So he's been doing this a long time. He's been through various different markets, on and on and on. So, talk to Rex if you're looking for somebody to help you with your retirement or college or whatever else you got going on. Thank you to Gayla Moores over at Southern Gem. Fine jewelry and gemstones, a whole service on top of the Windmiller building. She and the ladies are right there waiting to help you with all sorts of jewelry needs, from repairs to designs to cleanings to new inventory. Really beautiful stuff too. So talk to her if you have some event coming up, engagement, etc. She got it going. Also, Michelle Humphrey over at Hotworks. Hope you're doing well. She's pretty busy with her 2 outfits she got going on now. She spends most of her time here in Burleson. I've been there 3 or 4 times, sponsor care, if you want to call it that. And it's just a very nice facility, and it's clean and it's well kept and it's secure. So you can go in there anytime and you're going to have a secure environment to do your workout. Also, thank you to Mandy, who puts out all this good stuff for us. We'll be talking to her again next week about some more. I'm looking for maybe instead of gold cups with green writing, I have green cups with gold writing on the next round. So, but I'm running close. I'm down to my last dozen or so. Also, thank you to Otto. I hope you hear the show. I appreciate everything you do for us. I appreciate the support you give this community. Also, Chris, same thing. I appreciate the support you give this community. I hope you having a good day over at Wild Cigar. Wild Cigar, it really is, in my opinion, the nicest bar in town, and it's very nice. It's got a great atmosphere. It's got well-lit, great drinks. It's a place you could take your dad and mom to. So it isn't, it's a good place. And so Wild Cigar Culture over in the Standard. Also to Tiffany, I know you're busy. You got school starting with the youngins. You got this wedding coming up. You got all sorts of stuff going on. So God bless you. And try to put this magazine together. And check out locallifetx.com for the other version, or the online version. For the online version, the hard copy should be mailed to you this week if you haven't gotten it already. So thank you, Tiffany. Also, briefly, I remind you about the food and other drives that are going on. Food drives and the supply list and whatever else. Also with Rise on October 10th or 8th, rather. I'm sorry, I'm reading the wrong thing. October 8th at Pathways. Taylor, I hope it didn't keep you too long. I know you got to get going. So
Not all. You're good.
all right, good. So we'll see you Monday. I don't know what I'll be talking about then. By this time, there may be more from Read Up, Rant Rave. Share this with your friends, and I hope I was said it appropriately. So we'll talk to you later.